Don't wait till the battle's over. Don't wait till the struggle ends. Shout out right now. Shout out. Don't wait till you make it.
Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Phillip, and welcome to the PHILLIP Show. So go ahead and grab your coffee. I got mine. So listen, this is from our friends at Emporium Wines and Underdog Cafe. That's here in Yellow Springs. It's an awesome spot, and I get my coffee there sometimes. Most of the time now. They have burritos, so I'm there often. Yeah. So we're talking about creativity. What is creativity? How do you know you have it? What do you do with it? Is it just a passion? Is it a career? Like, how do we take our creativity, if we have it at all? If we don't know, I don't know. But how do we take it, harness it, and possibly use our creativity to launch our career for the rest of our lives? And that's always an interesting thing. And it's interesting about Emporium Wines and Cafe, because I know as a creative myself, you always try and find those spaces that are calm and cool, and you can think and you can actually create in those spaces. And I find, even when I lived in New York, I find that in those spaces like coffee shops, even though there's people around, it's a very kind of cool, eclectic environment where creative juices, I guess, if you will, can just flow, and you just have your moment kind of by yourself, but you're still with people. You know, for the creative people out there, they'll know what I'm talking about, but you know, whatever. Enough about me. So today we have an awesome person that's going to be on the show today. We're going to talk about how he got his journey started, what he's doing, and in his company. And he is the CEO and founder of Loud Family Inc. So let's jump in. Elias Kelley, hey, how are you doing?
What's up? What's going on? How you doing?
Oh, you know, I'm sitting here with my coffee, chilling. You know.
I wish I had more coffee. I might have to hit the Emporium before they close up. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, coffee's a must. I mean, it's the fuel of the soul.
You're right. I have to jump in on that. So how are things going? Everything good?
Yeah, everything is really good. We're here. This is the last month of the season of the PHILLIP Show. So I'm super excited. We're ending season 1, and we're ending it kind of how I started, with just being creative and talking about what all that means. And I know that you have a lot going on with your production company, with your background, being creative. So I want to hear all about, how did you get started? Let's start at the end a little bit. Your company. Tell us about your company, and let's work backwards.
Okay. Yeah, we like to call ourselves a full production company. So we go from like pre-production to production to post-production, and then sometimes back and forth print and advertising. And there's some consulting spots inside the middle of that. But just on the terms of the way the industry works is that you definitely have 3 different sectors: pre, post, and just regular production. But when you're doing it, it kind of like all flows together. So we like to be like that one-stop shop for everything. So if you're looking for like a previs, a 3-dimensional outlook of what your script and what the shots look like, even down to the mathematics of what the camera needs to look like, all the way to production, having teams on set to be gaffing, to do cinematography and all that, all the way to post-production, being able to utilize a team of VFX artists, people that do CGI and all that stuff to make things happen. We just kind of, that's what we do.
That's a lot. And let me back up, because you said something, and I want you to explain what the term means for the people in the back. You said re-gaffing. What is that?
So like pre-gaffing is like when you have a team that comes in, and usually it's like for TV shows or something like that. They'll mark all the actors' spots, and they'll make sure that they notate it and things like that. We'll have the people come in there. Usually that gaffing is like pulled up on the day or set of them, just in case, unless it's like crazy to go through. But so that's pre-gaffing, and then what gaffing, as people know, is just like the guy that like holds the lights real steady and is like shaking on the side, and hopefully the director holds that.
Yeah.
Shout out to gaffers. Shout out to gaffers.
How did you, because that sounds like a lot, and it seems like it would take a lot to kind of orchestrate or do the architecture to get to where you are. How did you start getting acclimated to knowing how to do all that?
The short answer is making a lot of mistakes. The long answer is making a lot of mistakes, but listening to the wisdom of people.
Wow.
I was trained by Herbert L. Eichelberger, and anybody that's like a real cinephile is going to be like, okay, that's the person that that taught Spike Lee. And I think it was actually there when Spike Lee won his first Oscar. But like, yeah, he would teach me, but the way that he would teach and stuff like that, now I'm stealing classes from this gentleman here until he's finally like catches me and he's like, hey, just go sign up. Just go sign up. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
yes, sir.
Yeah.
But he did by just throwing us into the thick of it.
Mm.
The set, here's the scene, put it together. You've got this amount of time,
Wow.
10 minutes, 15 minutes, or 3 minutes at sometimes. And you would put it together and he'd be like, what would you do? And just had us really bouncing ideas off of each other. And little did I know that going into the industry, that's really all that it was just like people bouncing ideas off of each other and kind of in a weird way, not even knowing how it is that they stick or how it is they even get on screen. But,
Gotcha.
But they do.
So how did you know? Because we hear a lot of times where people are, and kind of how did you know that you wanted to go into this vein of profession?
I started off as a writer. I love black and white. I love just the feeling of it. It's just amazing. And just rereading your stuff. So I would see these types of things that I could come up with inside my head and be like, oh man, that'd be sweet to see on the silver screen or on a television show, or just, have somebody see it, please.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just try to get that out there. Right. And then I started recognizing, because I was naive when I was starting off my company, that like it's much more than just the writing. The writing is something that you can sell to a Hollywood studio, or or to anybody that has interest in it. But then it's theirs. That's when it's theirs. Like, and you'll never really see what it is that you're looking for. And for my Leo sun, but Virgo rising with an Aquarius moon, was not letting that happen. It just wasn't.
Wow.
So that Virgo side of me was like, bro, we're gonna have to work for a couple of years. But that Virgo side and that Leo side and that Aquarius side helped me really start to amalgamate into the profession of being able to do or showcase or put what it is I had on paper on screen. And then slowly but surely, a group of people that had the same passion around those stuff, and somebody that was actually interested. I say this because we all know how this industry can be. Someone who was genuinely interested in their stories as well. It just made the team a lot more cohesive. And that's kind of how it is I learned it in such a way.
So you just alluded to something when you said about how the industry can be. What do you mean by that? And what are your perspectives on how the industry can be?
The industry is I don't know. The industry is it's a high school. I mean, the industry is basically, it's a high school, and you'll always have, like, you remember like when you would go and you would sit down at like whoever your clique was going to be and whatnot. I probably take it just from, I know I see the hat and I see BU and all that. You kind of knew how it was to like migrate between like all those different kind of, right? But do you ever notice that when you got into that, from the macroscopic of the lunchroom being the jocks and the weirdos and blah, 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 when you got inside, there was that same kind of niche between the people there.
Yeah.
That's what this industry is like. It's like you're typecast to what it is that you do, and the only way that you can get out of being that typecast is to basically fall on your sword, so to speak. And that means give up like your creative endeavors. Give up your creative endeavors. They'll call it team sporting, but really it's just you kind of handing over what you would like to do with your creative portfolio. And it can be really, really vicious, and it typically is.
So how did you find in that sphere of, like, because it sounds kind of confusing and frustrating. So in that sphere of confusion and frustrating, how did you find kind of the direction to kind of weather that storm and kind of come out saying, okay, now I understand it, but this is what I want to do?
Gosh, You know, I robbed people. I held them at gunpoint and said, "Hey, I'm gonna shoot your video. If you're gonna like it, you're gonna tell people about it." No, honestly, it damn near feels like that though. It damn near feels like that. You give up your service to be in service of your own creative spirit, so that others will take notice of it and then find value behind it, which means that you're always working to catch up with who it is that you are creatively, which of course is the drive, but at the same time, it always leaves you feeling in some way, shape, or form undervalued or devalued in how it is that you would like to do something. And yeah, that's something that's really difficult to deal with, if your mind's not right for it. And you have to fall on your sword. But I mean, I was homeless in Boston, you know, a couple of times, you know what I mean, just to get the vision that I wanted, and I wasn't going to let go. So even when people weren't watching, they were watching. They were like, okay, so you went 3 months being homeless just to get the vision that you got, and then this person took your vision or usurped your vision, and they couldn't make it work. Maybe we should have put the money into you, or maybe we should have doing that. We should, and that's the Hollywood story.
Sure.
Right? So that's basically what happened.
How do you choose what project you're either going to create, or how you select the project that you want to work on?
So I feel like it would be I would be remiss to say like I'm an indie filmmaker or something like that, right? Because I'm not. I'm more interested in the film paradigm to be able to tell a story. But as I'm going forward, even more so creatively with some of the stories that have been told, that have been written by others, I'm recognizing that I'm enjoying, and the team is enjoying, getting immersed in other people's visions of the story and seeing how it is that can be created. And so now it is now the projects that are being chosen are based on things that ultimately enrich the spirit in the end. You know, it needs to pay well. It needs to pay well.
You're like priorities.
Right? But when we get off that stage, they should feel like everybody that's there, right, should feel like they had a part in what made that so great. And so this might be an opportune time to shout out Darian Willis. He utilized the shots that we had done with Central State up until this last project, and got into film school.
Wow.
Yeah. So we are congratulations, Darian. You definitely deserve it. They're getting a good one.
So from what you're saying, how would you describe you as a creator? If somebody were to say, I guess, let me just ask, what is your title?
On set, I'm usually the director, the cinematographer, or the producer. When it comes to television shows, I'm usually the UPM, the unit production manager. And if they already have a UPM, then I become the LPM, the line production manager, which basically is not as creative as a role. It's just basically me going down an Excel sheet to make sure that things are set the way that they're supposed to be, kind of running in between like the above the line and below the line to make sure that everything kind of lines up. When it comes to the company, though, you know, I don't feel like I've earned the right to be the CEO in my own company. I feel like it's more just a title that you have to put on the paper, so it is that they know who it is to blame things on. Okay, yeah, come on, taxes. But you feel me? But I feel like I have to. There are so many people that are out here that are more talented than I am. They've gone through a lot more of their crucibles to be in this industry, and I'm constantly learning from them. So I would say that in the business, you're probably looking at me as a manager and a majority voter, but I haven't earned the CEO title as of yet. But I'm working on it, because there's a lot of things that we want to do in-house that we want to bring to people that would be like amazing, like this little village project that we're working on. Like, we're going through it hell or high water type deal, and it's so close, but hopefully the story is something that people will get behind, because it's almost Kubrickian the way that it's thrown out there.
So you mentioned the project that you're working on now. That's in Yellow Springs, Ohio. And I know that you have lived in a lot of different places. Many are large cities, some small, but coming from a larger city where it seems like there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of choices, a lot to choose from, to a smaller town such as village, such as Yellow Springs. What is the creative dynamic of shifting from large to small, and do you find it easier or more challenging to for projects?
Man, that's a dope ass question, because I apologize. I don't know if you can cuss on here. That's a dope question.
We don't beat that out.
Okay, all right. My apologies. That's just wow. I think that in the big city, there's so much chaos that it's easy to manage your own small bubble of that. I think Yellow Springs is your bubble of that.
Mm.
And so, like, when you start to have the people that come in here that find Yellow Springs, and that seems to be a lot of the ways that we discuss it as townies, is like you have to discover Yellow Springs, and Yellow Springs will allow you in. It always feels like the people that have gone and lived life and that have done the work are the ones that Yellow Springs really invites in. And those people, in my mind, they're like big cities themselves. They're like this wealth of knowledge, this wealth of experience. And I got a chance to talk with a patron of the Heartbeat Gardens here, and we were just talking about that. Like, what's the juxtaposition? Why is it such a big deal to be here in Yellow Springs and be shooting a show here? And it's because, especially with, let's just keep it 100 with you, with, celebrities kind of popping up here now as kind of a new thing that's happening. People are like, well, so, you got the new celebrities, they're coming in and they're making shows. It's like, yeah, they're dope. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying anything against them, but, there's Robert over there that sells T-shirts underneath a tent that has 100 poems in his head that he has memorized, jokes that he's memorized, and he can do it off the snap. He is a celebrity, and there's so many celebrities that are here in Yellow Springs that are just of Yellow Springs. And I feel like honoring them is kind of the best way that we could ever kind of meet Hollywood in the middle and say, we can do something of quality, but you're going to have to kind of recognize the quality that made this what this is.
That's good. That's a good perspective. So speaking of personality, like, we hear how much of you is in the work that you do?
Okay, not as much anymore. Well, yes, a lot, but not in the way that one may think. You know what I mean? Not with like the sex and prestige of what people think like a director or an above the line assistant producer is going to do. I'm basically a servant to the show. I'm a servant to the show, and I'm a servant to the people that are working on the show. And any good person that's working on the show knows that, like, they're a servant of the show. The show must go on, and it'll be popping. But what I really noticed that I'll do, or how it is that I am in these projects, is being able to answer questions that I've had to deal with on other sets. So, like, working on the Wanted set, the Wanted that was with Angelina Jolie and James McAvoy. It was back in the day. But, like, being in Atlanta at that time, being a 17-year-old and working on that set and kind of like being invisible.
Sure.
Gave me a lot of perspective to be able to say, okay, well, that's how he does that, and he twists that there, and she twists that there, and that's how she holds the mic up there, and just ping, 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 ping. Now it comes into, oh man, I want to get this shot here, but what lighting would I use? I like, you use a halogen, bro head, since it's an orange light, go ahead and use a purple. That purple will give you a red viscosity, and then that light there can be captured from there. Make sure that you key them in the back and blah, 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 blah. And I can say it just like I'm saying it to you while working on something else, so the production keeps going faster. That's really what you'll see. It's just like, can we get an efficient production? And we're, besides one of these last things that we had to do where it was that we were not in control of the production, but technically our equipment was being used to have this production happen. The production ended up going south, but every other production that we were on, that we were like intrinsically hands-on with, it all went smoothly. So that's kind of where it is, you'll see.
I was like, message.
Yeah.
So there's a stereotype, and I want you to quickly, if you can, speak to this. There's a stereotype that people think that you have to have a one-track mind, that if you're creative, you're not so much business oriented, and the people who are very, very good at business and are very meticulous in that regard have no creativity. Where would you say the truth or the untruth or the mistruth or the fallacy comes in that, if at all?
Since art is subjective, everything can be art. So since art is subjective, objectively everything can be art. So business can be art. The creative ways that you set things up so it is that they work for you can be art. The same way like programming can be art, seeing websites. There's always some facet where it is that color, tone, and how it is someone feels being and watching something and being a part of something is always going to come into their life. So that, I believe, is just a true, one of the truest fallacies that you could ever put to paper, and it serves as a more divisive way of making sure that you don't have somebody on your back that might be better than you and a couple of other things as well. Especially with this day and age, because of how it is that you've got social media and people utilizing these other applications. Again, people utilizing technology to create art, but these people now are starting to do like double shots, like where it is that they're interacting with themselves through the video and it's seamless. So they're already becoming VFX artists. They're already becoming people that are producing their own content. The only problem is that it's in a lot of ways, it's more ego set. I have one camera, it's just me as the subject, or it's just a couple of people as the subject. When you get to the point of being able to kind of mitigate your own ego, as well as how it is that you would, because ego is business in America, just keep 100 with you. That's,
yeah.
Right? So once you can mitigate that and you recognize this kind of push up mentality instead of I stand over people pull up mentality, you'll start to get a whole lot further faster and recognize that you really already have the skills down the line. Everything from setting things up to getting things out distribution wise. It's just a matter of, again, push and pause on that EGO so that you can GO. You know what I mean?
I love it. I want a t-shirt about that right now. Yeah. So as a business person, as a business owner, and a creative, what would you say? What is one aspect of business that, as another creative is coming up, that you would encourage them to say, "Hey, make sure you harness this because this matters"?
I would say harness a system that is predicated on your ideals and morals around business, because that is your brand. So what I mean to say is come up with a system that pays people, does your taxes, gets all sets up calendar stuff, get all that stuff out of the way, because that will allow you, and there you'll find some creative stuff in that, but it'll allow you to be as creative as you want to be. And it'll also allow you to be creative in the way that the more content that you're making, because that's already been set in stone, your brand is just automatically growing.
That's a good perspective. Yeah. How important was it for you to find the balance between creativity and running your business?
Paramount. Because right now, the aspects of business and to be honest with you, the rigidness of business when it doesn't have to be, this callous nature that comes with it. You have to have thick skin. You have to be, you still have to be learned, and you also have to be, ready to fight for what it is that you believe in, even if it's just the point to where it is that you get to an understanding of where you were wrong, to apologize. Everything sharpens your sword in whatever it is that you put your mind to. everything sharpens your sword. You just have to know how it is to drag the stone across it.
You said previously that you were talking. Let me see. You were talking about talent. How important is talent versus building relationships, or are they different in the industry?
Ooh, this industry is very mercurial. This industry is Mercury and retrograde all the time. Right? It is where it's at. Talent. Someone said it like this: talent will get you hated in your face and loved behind the set. Relationships will get you hated on set and loved by the world. So it's when you have talent, everyone, how can I put it? When you have talent, everyone feels as though that they can compete with you because you're not doing anything for yourself to really be put out there. But relationships will get people to say, wow, this person's talented, and put you out there. So the amalgamation of more people that you know that'll push you out there ultimately means that the less talented that you'll be. So you have to really figure out what it is that you want, because they'll know you for something and propel you for something, but your talents will allow you to create something. And the more talents you have, the better it will be, even if the world has to wait a while to see it.
Okay. I'm gonna have to marinate on that one.
It's a weird paradigm. It's a weird one.
Yeah. And this is just shifting, because we've heard about your business. We heard your perspective on talent, on creative, on business and all of that. What would be, this is more personal, what would be something that people wouldn't expect from you? Not business, just kind of like people normally wouldn't expect that I like this.
Let's see. Goodness gracious. I love programming. I working on some patents right now for some things that are in the visual industry. I've got another business that I'm working with at LTech, LTech Technologies of North America.
Wow.
I love Euclidean geometry. I could go down the line.
There it is, Euclidean geometry.
You know what I'm saying? Let's figure out what space is. I act, I rap. I don't know. I could go down the line. Like any question, I'm an open book. I feel like the best thing that you can do is just let people know where it is that you really come from, so there's no questions later.
Yeah. And I love that because, I love stereotypes just because they're so surprising, and it's just like sometimes like Euclidean geometry, stereotypically, nobody would just come up with that, and it's just so interesting. And it's like, oh, really? So I just love those little nuggets of aha, like, oh, okay. That's different, So for the people, and I know that there are going to be some young people and some people that are pretty established now, but maybe looking to kind of define what their creativity means to their life and if it's actionable. We have, everybody has a hobby, everybody loves to do something, but we don't always make it an actionable item. So for somebody who's kind of teetering on, I really want to pursue, but I don't know if I should or when I should, what advice would you give them?
Do or don't do. There is no try. I mean, when you really think about it, you will either be spending most of your time weighing in on doing something or doing something regardless. So go through the pain of it. Go through the pain of it, because to do is to go through the pain of it. It really is. There's nothing that you can do. You have to touch a hot stove to know what it feels like to get burned. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that stuff is going to come up, but you will see that it will turn you. You'll darn near be like a superhero by the time you get to what it is that you love to do. So I'd say like go full force, and because you deserve You deserve to give it to the world, and the world deserves to see it, regardless of however it is that you break it down. And so we're waiting.
That's good. Do or don't do. So for those who want to get in touch with you about a project or to learn more, where can they go?
Elemental Eye Photography. We don't do business cards, which maybe we should do, but we don't want to we love trees, so we don't like the fact that they're cutting down trees and whatever. But you know how we do in Yellow Springs. Anyway, Elemental Eye Photography on Facebook, or you can get with Elem at elem.eye on Instagram. But yeah, we're working on some commercial projects now, so please get with us because there's a lot of things that we want to do. So we'd like to do them with you.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you. Well, thank you for thank you for coming to the show and taking some time, being in the studio and just cracking it all out.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, everyone, that was Elias Kelley, and he took us into his world very briefly, but you can see that there's a lot there. Being creative, also being business-minded, the two can go together, be very specific. And one of the big takeaways here is if you're thinking about doing something creative, if you're wondering what you should do, great advice from Elias. Do or don't do. It's that simple. All right, so make sure that you check us out next time. Thank you to Elias Kelley for coming. All the information to get in touch with him will be provided to you. And remember that you are the best you in the world. We'll see you later here on The PHILLIP Show.
Don't